Kind of nasty. My torque wrench in my arm, it's got to be calibrated right. I mean, I don't know what else to do, because I don't have the spanner wrench to actually to torque that. So hey guys, welcome back to another video. So it's been a minute since I made one, because if you watched my last video when I went riding at the Lake Murray ATV off-road park, I gave a little hint there at the end that I am moving out of Oklahoma and moving back to Utah. So because of that, I haven't really had a ton of time to do some videos, but this will probably be the last video before I move. I leave in about 2 weeks. If any of you guys have a 06 YZ450, and I think it applies to the 250s also, you have this problem. And what it is right here on the steering head, this top bearing, this little rubber guy right here, that is actually not a seal. That is a dust cover. So what happens is you'll be ripping along, doing your thing, and you'll get done. You'll come home, wash your bike, and you'll pressure wash right here. And what happens is water will creep in here over time. And once that water creeps in, it doesn't really go out because there's grease in the bearing. And because of the grease in the bearing, the water doesn't really escape. But what it does is after it gets so saturated in water and you ride the bike and move the handlebars, then that water penetrates that grease and goes to the steel, the metal of the bearing, ends up rusting it out. So this is a common problem with these bikes, and not only that, but from the factory it just doesn't come greased well enough. The bearing is like not packed. So today I'm going to go ahead and change that. And one of the main reasons I'm actually changing it is not really for that reason, because I don't feel like I have that problem yet. But I have a little bit of play in my steering stem. Like, I can feel it. Like when I wheelie, I'll pick the front end of the bike up, and then when I land, I can feel a small click. And it's in the handlebars. It's not in the forks. It's not down low next to the the wheel. It's like right there next to the handlebars. So it's got to be that steering stem. It's got to be. And when I move it slightly, I can feel it. So if I just go like this with the handlebars, so right there I've got it centered, right? If I go like this and just wiggle it back and forth, I can feel a click, just a small click. So I'm going to blame it on bearings. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to swap these bearings out to show you guys how to do it. Pretty easy process. Alright guys, it kind of looks like a jumbled mess here, but as you can see, now that top one is completely free. So we're going to go ahead and slide it off. Oof. Looks a lot worse without it on there. Kind of nasty. There's a washer right there, by the way, between the spanner nut and the top triple clamp. Alright, once I break this spanner nut free from the shaft, we should be able to pull that up, and I'm really curious to see what it looks like. I'm gonna bet it don't look so hot, especially based off of how nasty this is. It can't look any better. Now on this, if you don't have the spanner wrench, which most people don't, just get you a good set of channel locks. like this that are actually rounded. I have this Irwin set that fits perfectly around that, as you can see, and that will get that nut off without causing a bunch of damage to it. Okay, surprisingly enough, this bearing actually looks really good. I thought it would be all rusted, but as you can see, it is terribly under-greased. Now we'll see what the bottom bearing looks like. Okay, so really, the bottom bearing actually looks worse than the top, which kind of surprises me. I mean, any water that, you know, gets in there is going to come down and run down onto this one, but look at these little globs of grease right here. They just look like welding slag almost. Alright guys, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this punch, I'm going to run it up inside from the bottom, and I'm going to put this point here right on the inside of the race. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me put this up in here. This race has a lip on it, right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it a couple times on this side, hit it a couple times on this side, and I'm going to drive that race out. And don't throw this race away, because I'm going to show you a way to put the new race in using the old one. And just like that, the old race is out. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you what is in the All Vols kit. If you're wondering, the part number for this kit is 22-1001. So that will fit, I'm pretty sure it will fit the YZ450F from 06 up to 09. So you get a sticker, and then you'll get a dust cover, which this is your top dust cover, by the way. You'll get your bottom dust cover, and then you'll also get a second one. And this is for a different application. So really you just need this one for the bottom, and then this one for the top. And then you've also got one of your bearings, and then the other bearing. Anyway, that's what comes in the kit. So we are going to use this, and both bearings. The races are inside these packages. Alright, so now that we got our bearings out of the package, what you'll be able to see here is on this bearing there is a lip right here where you can see all the roller bearings. You're going to want to pack that thing clear full of grease until it's coming out all of the areas of the bearing, and you cannot get rid of grease. Like, you just want to fill this thing up, and then we'll wipe up all the excess. But you can't really over grease these. You can under grease them, as you saw when we pulled the old ones out, but you're not really going to be able to over grease them, trust me. And all I'm doing here is I'm spinning the bearing a little bit, and then I'm kneading the grease in. I'm running it against my finger and making it come out. So every time I go by this, I got grease coming out of the roller bearings every single time. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock this old bearing off of the bottom triple clamp, and the best way to do it is to hit it from the back side with a chisel and a hammer. Otherwise you basically have to cut it off. They make a tool that you can get this off with without using a hammer and a chisel, but you have to cut this outside race of the bearing off first. So I don't have that tool. It's like $80, so I'm just going to show you the way to do it without. Most people obviously don't have the tool. So anyway, we'll go ahead and do that next. Alright, so go ahead, rest it on the ground like that. Get yourself your chisel and your hammer, and we're just going to start from the back side here and knock this bearing off. Okay guys, as you can see, I got the inner race off. Kind of a pain in the butt, honestly. I got a little bit of a nick there, but so far so good. Wasn't too bad. I did forget to mention you actually have to knock off the bearings first, and then usually you can use this lip to help start it, but I ended up breaking the lip right off the first hit. So anyway, put your chisel in there, get it separated. Once it starts moving, it should just come off pretty easy. But all right, now that chaos is over, first thing we're gonna do is put on our new bottom seal, and then we're gonna take our nice new greased bearing and we're gonna slide it over the top, and it's gonna stop about right there. And then I'm gonna show you my jerry-rigged setup that I'm sure all of you are gonna love so much. Okay, so long story short, I thought I had a piece of pipe that would go over the steering stem and ride right on the race, so that when I hammered it down, you want to make sure it hits that inner race. That or you just damaged your brand new bearing and you got to start over. So I had to find something, and this is what I came up with. Went to Lowe's, I grabbed me a, what is this, a 1-inch conduit coupler, and it fits perfectly on the inside of that race. Now, I didn't have anything that would fit over the steering stem, because up here, as you can see, the steering stem, it gets larger and then smaller. So I found this 1.25-inch piece of pipe, which fits perfect, goes right over and sits right on that piece. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hammer down on this pipe, and we're going to seat that bearing. Oh yeah, it's going on no problem. It's actually working better than I thought it would. Okay, I'm almost seated. You can see that seal still spins just barely, so I'm going to give it one more tap, and that will be it. Yep, and you can hear how that sound changed. Yeah, now that thing won't spin anymore. So, all right, that's it. All right, guys. So now we're going to take our outer race and we're going to go ahead and drive it into the neck of the frame. So here I'm just using a simple seal driver. You can go ahead and pick this kit up on Amazon. I'll actually put a link below for the one that I have. This is an awesome kit. It's a 10-piece. It's got 9 different sizes of these heads, and they double in size. So this is one size, that's another size, and they alternate. So anyway, for 26 bucks, this is, I mean, money well spent. So go ahead and pick you one of these up. Like I said, I'll put a link below, and sure saves you in a time like this when you need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that up there, tap it with a hammer, and we're gonna drive this baby home. So I am gonna use just a little bit of WD-40 in there, just because a little bit of lube goes a long way. So anyway, here we go. Okay, so I've got that drove home, but there at the end I actually used my old race. My seal driver kit wasn't quite the perfect size, and so basically what I did was I just lined it up and then I just tapped it in like so. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put our top bearing in, slide our triple trees up in the bottom, put our dust cap on, tighten it down. We're going to get it fairly snug, and then after that we're going to go ahead and back it off a quarter turn, check our play, make sure it's good. Then we're going to go ahead and put the top clamp on, slide our forks in, and then we'll torque down our nut. You don't want to torque down the nut on the top clamp until you get your forks in to align your clamps. Just remember that, or else you'll try to eyeball it and then you'll be crooked, and it won't work, I promise. So what you just saw me do was put my fork legs in. I tightened these bolts up, these top bolts up on both sides. Basically that was just to true triple clamps so that they were the same. They were tight. It allowed everything to line up, if that makes sense. Now what you don't want to do is tighten this down with these bolts tight, because that puts tension on the forks and right here, and it, you know what I'm saying? You're tight here, and then you tighten here, it's going to put a load on it, and you don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to back these back out, both sides. And now I'm free. So now this top clamp is floating how it should be. The only thing keeping it on is this top bolt right here. So now this is a great time to figure out your free play in your steering. If you need it a little bit tighter, go ahead and snug that up just a little bit. If you need a little bit looser, go ahead and loosen that. Just make sure that you don't have any up and down slop in your new bearings. That's the quickest way to wear your bearings out. The manual says tighten it to 27 foot-pounds, back it off one turn, and then retighten it to 5.1 foot-pounds. So, I mean, my torque wrench on my arm, it's got to be calibrated right. I mean, I don't know what else to do, because I don't have the spanner wrench to actually to torque that. So you don't have to have it, but ideally you would. So that's set up where I like it. I'm going to go ahead and torque this top nut now. Like I said, make sure these are backed off so this is free to float. I'm going to tighten this up. Torque spec on it is 105 foot-pounds, so it's quite a bit. Okay, and that's that. Alright guys, I've got the bike back together. I was not going to bore you with the reassembly of it. So, as far as how tight the steering is, you can see it's about perfect. You want it to be where when it's sitting center, it doesn't move, but when you tip it to the side, it wants to go on its own, but it's like right on the edge of going on its own. See that? Just barely. You don't want it just all over the place. Anyway, bike's back together. Looks really good in this new light, so that thing is amazing. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have any questions as to how all of this went, and you know, reassembly about the bike, just leave it in the comments below. I am literally sweating my butt off right now because it's so hot out here. But I hope you guys liked the video. Again, I will leave all the tools in the description below, and then let me know, please, for those of you that hung around till the end, let me know. I want to know what you guys want to see on the bikes, because if you guys can give me ideas on what you'd like to see, whether it pertains to this bike or any other, I can do it to this bike. So the nice thing about this bike being an 06 is it was cheap for me to buy, and I can kind of fix things up as it needs. So I'm not into a bike $9,000 as they are nowadays. So total with the repairs I've made and everything like that, I think this bike, man, honestly, tires, suspension, everything, I'm probably only into this bike $3,500. Bike's doing sweet. Steering feels super smooth. That job went really smooth overall. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and please subscribe. I would appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.